Welcome back to another week in the passenger seat. Woo woo! Woo! Let's go. Man, this week we got a obviously we're following along with JJK and we got a pretty dope episode this week. So super excited about that. Super excited to talk about it. Writers, y'all know how we do. We're going to hop right into talking about the episode. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and then we're going to talk about nerd news. So if you're interested, make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe. We always appreciate that, and it helps our channel out a lot. And with that being said, let's hop right in.
Dude, I know you probably got a lot to say, but honestly, it was a pretty fire episode. I ain't gonna lie. It was actually a really good episode. The dude is going to be a fan favorite. You can tell. That dude is gonna be in Comic-Cons cosplayed, all sorts of stuff. That hammer is gonna be like, 3D printed. The dude's gonna become popular. He's one of those characters, and honestly, deservedly so. He was really cool. His ability is actually kind of like cool, legit. He's basically that Phoenix dude. It was so simple but cool at the same time, where it's almost like, yeah, that's your fate. And then the hammer tricks and all that, dude, all that animation with the hammer tricks, I was like, yo, they're really pulling all the stops here. Like, it's actually pretty fucking cool. And the final thing with the death penalty and the sword, I was like, bro, this guy's really cool. Honestly, it was such a good episode. I think the only thing that disappointed me was that he didn't join him and that he decided to walk away. I think that was the most. I think that was like the most disappointing part, because I was hoping that maybe we will, but I was hoping to see him more. Because honestly, he's a pretty legit character. I didn't get any into like the details or anything like that. I'm assuming you did. But from what I saw, it was a good episode. Honestly, it was really freaking dope. I enjoyed it.
So first thing I'm gonna say is gavel. It's called a gavel.
Dude, that fucking gavel is crazy. There was a point where it looked like Amy's hammer.
Yeah. No, you're right. So here's the thing. I absolutely love that episode, and I always love to watch reactors after watching an episode. One reason, because I like seeing their reactions, but two, because sometimes they give a little bit more perspective of things that you may have missed during the episode. And if it's not the reactors, it's people commenting below their videos. Because I think a lot of JJK fans are very keen to catch details that you would typically miss. And I know that watching these reaction channels, watching the videos and looking at the comments and looking back at the episode, I caught a lot of things that I missed on first watch. The first thing I'm going to say is obviously the fight scene was splendid. The choreography, the way they drew them, the frame by frame process of that whole thing was absolutely spectacular. And
when homie was like,
all the
I was like, yo, what the
dude, for real. So one of the things that I really enjoyed was okay, let me get this out of the way first. Let me get the negative out of the way first before I go into all the positives. So it is very hard to appreciate the animation, the fighting, the choreography, all those small little details going on screen when you're getting an explanation in the background. And I know Tengen was in there giving us an explanation of Higuruma, but it was really hard to, obviously this is a problem with people who watch it subbed, right? That you have to constantly read the subtitles.
I know which part you're talking about too. It was annoying.
Yeah, while also trying to appreciate the episode per se. And unless you go back for like a second watch, you're gonna miss a lot of things. So that was my only thing. I know JJK is pretty it's pretty what's the word for that? Pretty prolific for doing that, right? They do that
Uh-huh.
all the time. But it doesn't take away from how great the episode was in my eyes. Now, let me talk about first the fact that we got, a little bit more of this. Obviously, we started off the fight. We get an explanation of Higuruma's ability, his domain, which is like this court setting. And you have the option. You go into trial, basically, and you have a couple of options. Higuruma's given evidence, which we then, we later learned that the moment he's given the evidence, at first I thought like, oh, he has to open the envelope and review the evidence to know what it is. No, the moment he gets the evidence, he knows what it is. He basically gets all the knowledge from the evidence. Um, and
Actually, it
we,
was it was really free. It was pretty cool, but not cool, but like funny that the first one was like so silly, and
yeah,
then the second one was like really serious.
and I think that was exactly the point. It was to throw you off. Like everybody knew in the background, like, okay, so wait, there's something a lot heavier with Yuji, even though we all knew it wasn't Yuji's fault, right? It was Sukuna's doing,
Uh-huh.
but even so, like, I think it was to have more of that impactful effect on the viewer of like, oh, something silly to something so heavy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the thing is, right, with the first one, Yuji was thinking like, oh, like what do I do? What action do I take? What do I say? With something like, you know what I mean? Something so silly or something so it's like a not even a misdemeanor, I think. But
No, yeah, yeah.
then we get the first basically the fight, right? We get the fight where he gets his cursed energy confiscated. That was the determination of Judge Man, which is hilarious because Judge Man sounds, first of all, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh
I
card.
thought
Second
it
of
was a
all,
girl.
no, Judge Man, the first thing is that's a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and second, it sounds to me like a Mega Man character. I think it's a Mega Man character actually.
Judge
um
man.
Judge Man. Anyways, so
Guilty.
we get that first fight scene, that first fight, the fight sequence per se, because the other one is not really a fight sequence. It's more of just like
Mm-hmm.
that culmination of everything. And that fight sequence was amazing. The choreo was insane. It was nuts, dude. And let me tell you, I already knew that they were gonna fight, obviously, because I got spoiled things, and I watch these videos, these shorts on YouTube that give me information of what's gonna happen. It doesn't give me all the
Yeah.
details, so it's still exciting to watch. But I know for you as a first time viewer, and again, I'm just here to clear up those little details that you may have missed. So the the fight was nuts. That first strike by Higuruma, increasing the size of the gavel, basically it becoming a mallet at that point, and then all the things that he could do with it. And then we get the explanation from
Yeah.
Tengen. We get a little bit of a backstory about how he's essentially a genius. He's a prodigy, not just in law, but also as a sorcerer. And the fact that he worked his way backwards from uh you know basically domains is nuts, or domains or barriers or whatever the case may be. But he worked his way backwards with cursed energy, and I need you to understand how hard that is, right? Because sorcerers, they have to learn, right? We've seen how sorcerers go through the process of controlling cursed energy, um up to setting up a simple domain, up to doing a domain expansion, which is like the peak of a sorcerer. And this dude, there's sorcerers who don't have domain expansions. Think about that. We had Nanami, we have Toto. They don't have
Yuji.
domain expand. Yeah, they don't have domain expansions. But this dude in 12 days has a completely fully realized domain expansion. So that's how nuts Higuruma is in terms of
Honestly,
like,
his domain expansion is kind of crazy though, because no violence, and then if you're found guilty, it's not like instant death. It's just he takes away your curse energy, and you're just if you don't know how to fight, you're basically effed.
exactly. It's one of the things that can happen because then we got to see the death penalty, but we'll get to that in a sec. Now, the one of the some of the coolest parts of the choreo for me were one, that hand to hand combat. First of all, Higuruma going against Yuji is nuts because Yuji is crazy with the hands, right? So Higuruma going on par with Yuji with hands is crazy. Um, there's one point where he threw the gavel, Yuji caught it and sent it back, and he's fixing his tie as the gavel's coming at him, and he like makes it appear in his hand instead of having it hit him. And I
Like
thought
Thor.
that was, oh dude, I thought that was so that was so beautifully done. Um, but then he's fighting Yuji. He does this whirlwind type kick, and then a like a straight up kick that sends Yuji flying, and it's to sit in a chair. Also crazy. We had the extendo on the gavel, and then he slammed it down as Yuji was trying to like crawl away. And
Oh
then
yeah,
we,
yeah, the rope one where he's just like swinging it around and like.
yeah, and then we had the scene you were talking about, the one he's throwing the gavels, and
I love I
it's
love
almost
that
like
scene.
bullets. Yeah, it's almost like bullets, dude. And you see like the holes going through the wall as Yuji's running. I don't know. I thought it was such smart use of an ability that otherwise would be used pretty poorly in any other scenario. So I think that's pretty cool.
They did the
And
best they could with what considerably could have been a boring idea.
yes, I 100% believe that, dude. I wholeheartedly I believe that. Um, and so then we go into Yuji realizing that what can he do in the case he doesn't have cursed energy? He's about to be flattened out. He calls for a retrial, and this time around, Judge Man brings up the Shibuya incident, and it was really impactful that moment because Judge Man calls it out. We're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna have to fight his way out? And Yuji's like, no, I did that. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
deny it. It
yeah,
was so quick. It was so stark. It was just like he was so stoic in saying it. It was like, yeah, that was me. And Higuruma's face for that brief frame, that brief second, was complete and utter shock.
yeah. Because his evidence was probably the fact that it really wasn't him.
Yes, and he's just there with we don't get that until later, but when you look back on it, he had that realization at that moment that Yuji took a guilty verdict despite it not being him.
Hmm.
And Judge Man obviously is it's really cool the metaphors and stuff with Judge Man because Judge Man, his eyes are sewn shut because justice is blind. And we had that scene where Judge Man, well, you said you're guilty, so you're guilty. That's like the system that Higuruma was in, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And the whole point of Higuruma is that he's fighting this system that's charging guilty to people who are really innocent.
Hmm.
So it's a whole full circle thing with Yuji, and then we have that awesome, culmination of the fight scene where Yuji does a thing, he knocks up a bunch of chairs, Higuruma's going in, Yuji's trying to like distract him, throwing his clothes, and then they're gonna go in
That
for the
sword
final
though,
blow. Dude, the executioner sword is nut. The fact that you can one tap anybody is nuts.
that
Okay,
was crazy.
so that moment where they're about to do the final blow, and here's one detail that thanks to the reaction channels I watched, I picked up on later, but maybe you didn't catch it. The moment he's about to strike Yuji, dude, Higurama closes his eyes.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah, yeah.
did you
And,
did you realize
and he
that?
makes it disappear. I didn't see him. I don't remember him closing his eyes. I remember her making the sword disappear.
He makes the sword disappear, but the important thing there was that he closed his eyes. You remember how he was talking about the one point where he's talking about justice being blind, but he wanted to open his eyes or whatever. And in this moment, he closes his eyes, which is such a big deal because it's like him saying, like, I he's going against all these things that he thought, that small portion of his life where he thought like, oh, like the system's messed up, like nothing works, like killing didn't feel that bad or whatever, or killing people who ticked you off, it felt kind of good or whatever. And in that moment, it's him going like, dude, what the heck am I doing? And so he releases his technique, Yuji punches him, and then we have that great moment where Higuruma tells Yuji like, dude, this wasn't on you. So for me, that, and then they had awesome moment where they both sit on stage, and Higuruma was basically, "Have you ever killed anybody from on your own volition?" And Yuji's like, "Yeah." Obviously, he did, right, with the with Choso's brothers and stuff. But
I think
then it
so,
cut
yeah.
then it cuts out to black, and Higuruma's like, "It felt awful, didn't it?" And that's also Higurama talking to himself, because he killed the judge
Good
and
judge.
the lawyer, and he feels like, at first he was like, "Oh, you ever killed somebody who ticked you off?" And at the end is where he's speaking his truth. He's like, "It feels terrible, doesn't it?"
Mm.
And I thought it was just such a great episode, great writing, great character. I really like Higuruma. Like, honestly, one of my top characters for sure. They do such a
He's
good job in
gonna be
writing
a
a
fan
character,
favorite, hands down.
hands down,
Hands
hands
down.
down. And people who cosplay, it's easy. It's just suit and tie. Come on.
Yeah. It's everything from it's his aura, everything about the character is gonna make him a fan favorite.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I honestly, one of the highest rated episodes in season 3 for me. No questions asked, for sure, for sure. And yeah, I think, if I don't know if you got anything to add to all that I just said. I know I went on a tangent for a little bit there.
I mean, like I said, like I didn't search any details or anything like that, but I did really enjoy the episode. And like I said before, they made something that could have been boring really entertaining.
Yes.
Honestly, I'm not
Mhm.
sure if that's exactly frame for frame what happens in the manga, but I'm pretty sure Mappa has a way of extending fight scenes and like making choreography look better. And
Mhm.
man, they did such a beautiful job.
Yeah, dude.
Jesus.
The animator on this one, I heard who he is, because he worked on I think it's on a Chinese, it's a this anime called Cube, something that I saw bits and pieces of fight scenes in that anime. Nuts, dude. Nuts. So to have him here, it's like, yeah, I can definitely tell that they really beefed up the animation department with all these different artists. And they're just so great, dude. They're just so great. With the past 2 episodes have been fantastic, with like the
Hmm.
shot direction that they do. Like, if you see it and you see like the storyboarding and stuff, and the way they frame these shots, it's cinema. It's literally
Yeah,
like these cinematic
really good.
shots, point of views, and I mean, come on, dude. It's so great. With that being said, there is, however, right, obviously people have already started, but I can see it. And I thought about this before I saw it online. Funny enough. So I was one of those people who I guess thought about it before they started posting stuff online. Dude, live action, Higurama, Adrian Brody.
I can see that.
Dude, tell me you don't see that. Adrian Brody is as Higurama, dude. And obviously the one we already know is Mads Mikkelsen
Oh,
as
Mads
Nanami.
Mikkelsen's good. Yeah,
As Nanami, yeah.
I
That
can
would
see
make
that.
for a crazy live action, dude.
Yeah, I
Anyways,
mean
anyways.
those are two actors who would probably never touch that stuff, but it
Yeah.
would be cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's like the whole William Dafoe Ryuk thing, right?
Willem Dafoe, bro. That guy's weird.
Oh my god. Anyways, so that's enough about the episode. Let's writers, if we failed to mention something, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I know we went pretty long into the explanation of this episode, but it was warranted because this episode was just so great. Let us know your thoughts about the episode below, and we'd really like to hear your feedback on that. Now let's go ahead and hump. Let me go
Whoa, hump.
hump. Let's
Whoa,
go hump.
whoa.
Let's go hump. Let's. I was gonna say jump and then hop, and then I just went with hump.
Oh my god.
Anyways, let's hop right into nerd news. Um, and I'll start off because I really don't have much this week, and plus I don't want to extend this video for much longer than it has to be.
Mm,
I've got two, right? TMNT dropped. We're in pre-release weekend, and I think this week it drops. The okay, so there's so many there's so many cool cards in this set. I know people may be against Universes Beyond. Um, the key factor I want to talk about in this whole release is the commander set, the commander deck. I'm sorry, the precon. The precon, absolutely great value. You may be against Universes Beyond, but let me tell you, that pre-con is worth it. So if any of you are kind of on the fence with TMNT, I'd really suggest at least trying to get the pre-con. It's super great, has super great value. The land value is great as well. So definitely consider picking up a copy of that. The second thing I want to talk about is an announcement that was done a couple of months ago. I just, resurfaced for me through Instagram Reels, and I wanted to touch up on it because it is coming up, and it is Bleach. Okay, the continuation
Yeah.
of the 1,000-Year Blood War coming in July. I believe it's a film. I'm not sure if it's a film or if it's like just the rest of the series, but I'm so excited, dude. You have no idea. I'm so excited for Bleach. Bleach has to be one of, if not my favorite anime, because it's just the vibe, it's the style. It. I personally thought out of the big three, Bleach was my favorite. Like, I have to be
Oh.
honest. I know a lot of people may find that controversial. They're thinking, "Oh my god, what the fuck, dude? One Piece, Naruto." Listen, Naruto and One Piece. Naruto had a lot more episodes than Bleach, and One Piece is still going, which means One Piece still, and sure, Bleach is now 2, but I mean, One Piece hasn't stopped. Sure, they've had their hiatuses, but what I mean is, like, it hasn't stopped like Bleach stopped between the ending of that ending fight with Aizen to now, where we're at with 1,000-Year Blood War, and it's gone longer than Naruto too, which ended obviously Shippuden, and now we're getting bored to it, but that's not the point. If Bleach would have had the continuation of either of these animes, I believe it would be still, really high up there. At least for me, it's the best out of the three. Also, quick side
When
note.
Bleach did take that hiatus, I always remember when it did take that hiatus, there was newer fans who like they even stopped believing that Bleach was part of the big three. They would always say Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, what the fuck?
Nuts. That's
And that
nuts.
would happen a lot.
That's nuts, dude. Um, Tite Kubo is one of the best, and actually, and honestly, if you've ever seen them draw, like all the artists from the big three, Tite Kubo is the best. I I mean, just watch a video comparison. I'll send you one later, and you'll see it, and you'll be like, oh yeah, facts. Um, a little tidbit I heard around the grapevine. I don't know if this is true, so writers, if you know, confirm. I heard that the Gege Agutami is actually heavily inspired by Bleach for JJK. So yeah, it's pretty cool to know that. And I see it. I see it. So anyways, that was my nerd news. And see, you've got the floor, man. I've been talking too much.
I don't have a lot of nerd news for you guys this week. I'll start off by saying there is talks, and I don't think they're not necessarily rumors; they're actual talks and conversations with Paul Bettany. I want to say that's his last name. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry. He's the guy who plays Vision,
Okay.
and he is in talks of playing Lord Voldemort for the Harry
Ooh.
Potter TV series.
Ooh.
Which, if you've seen him in other acting roles other than Vision, because I don't feel like Vision gives him a lot of like emotion to like
Mm,
really like expand his range. But if you see other movies, I can see it. I can see him playing a villain. I can see him going all out and stuff like that. Like Vision's not really a perfect representation of that. So I thought that was a pretty cool nerd news because obviously in the first Harry Potter series, it might show his face at the end, but we all know from the first movie, Lord Voldemort doesn't really show up. I
yeah.
mean, the guy doesn't even show up until like what, book 4, Goblet of Fire, where he appears out of the pot.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Getting a big name actor to do that, really awesome. Other nerd news I have is I've talked about it on the channel before, but Netflix is releasing a Ghostbusters animated series, but they just announced a Ghostbusters animated movie as well.
Okay.
Trying to keep the franchise going non-live action because live action is not really working for them.
Mm,
Interesting part about this movie is called Ecto. They already have the title, and it is a movie from the perspective of a ghost following the Ghostbusters around.
oh, cool.
Weird concept, but if it works, it works. You
Yeah.
know,
Got
never
to give
know.
anything a try. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last piece of nerd news I have, which I sent Joseph, and I'm pretty sure a bunch of you have already been talking about it, and that is the Lanterns trailer, which has a lot of fans divided. A
Mm,
lot. Because people who haven't been following DC, I remember when they first announced, James Gunn first announced that they were going to try to do a true detective type style Green Lantern. And I'm like, oh, okay. So when I saw the trailer, I was like, exactly what he said he was going to do. It basically looks like that. Now the fans who didn't really research that stuff, they're really upset. They don't
mm,
like it. They don't like the realness of it. They don't like the gritty detective stuff, and they don't like that the green in it isn't like a bright green, and there's like no like pictures of aliens and all this stuff that Green Lantern is known for. So it does have a really divided group right now of nerds because the OG Green Lantern fans just want to see him in space and not be a
mm.
detective. So, but I like the trailer. I'm going to watch it regardless. But I did like the trailer. It shows you just enough to keep you invested, but it doesn't spoil everything, which is fine with me.
Yeah, I think with DC, you got to keep your mind open, because they can really catch you off guard, even if it's not going in a direction you think it's supposed to go. Plus at this point, you can't really, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
DC has messed up so much in certain areas that you just gotta go with it, go with the flow at this point. Not really
I
anything
believe in
else you
James
can
Gunn.
do.
That's
But
all the nerd news I have for you guys.
all right. Well, yeah. And I think this is a good time to cut it. So, writers, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you had a, great week last week. I hope you have a great week coming up. And with that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We always appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us on the ride. Till next time, peace out.
Peace.